Over the past year, my makeup preferences have definitely shifted, and some of the makeup techniques that I used to rely on in my routine, I never do anymore. So in this video, I'll be sharing all the things I don't do in my makeup routine anymore, what I do instead, and why you should consider making a change too. We'll get into it, but first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. Welcome to my channel where we talk all things budget beauty. If that sounds interesting to you, then become the newest member of the Slashed Squad by hitting subscribe and the bell icon. First things first, I'm gonna create a divider down the center of my face so you can really see the before and after clearly. That's pretty even. My nose is crooked, so that's why it looks like that. Okay, this is the side where I'm gonna show you everything I used to do, all of the techniques that I no longer use, and then this is going to be my updated routine side. So the first thing that I'm doing very differently in my makeup routine is I am now regularly using face primer under my foundation. If you are a newer subscriber of mine, you may not know that I used to totally denounce the need for face primer in most situations. And I still stand behind what I said about a lot of modern foundations, even at the drugstore level, not really needing primer to deliver on its claims. For example, the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation lasts really well without primer and has silicone in it, so it gives you that smoothing effect. And even my current favorite, the Catrice True Skin Foundation, does pretty well without needing anything underneath. However, as I've gotten older, my skin has changed. Not only my skin type, but also I'm noticing fine lines. I'm noticing expression lines becoming deeper. And that does play a part in how my makeup sits on my face. So now I am regularly using primer in my routine to address those changes that I see in my skin and make that adjustment. So these are my two favorites at the drugstore. The e.l.f. Power Grip Primer I have mentioned a ton on here. This is the best primer if you need your makeup to last a long, long time. It also keeps makeup out of my expression lines pretty well. It is a stickier primer. It is a little bit on the thicker side. This is what I'm using when I have a full face of makeup that I don't want to move. However, on more of a daily basis, I've really been loving the Milani Bright Side Primer. This has vitamin C and provitamin B5. It is a brightening primer. Not only does the vitamin C act as like a skincare ingredient, but this does have a little bit of radiance to it. It does add a glow under your foundation, and I do find that my skin needs a little bit of help in the glow department, especially right now in winter. It is so freaking dry here in Vegas. And then aside from the glow benefits of this primer specifically, it does also help with the longevity of my makeup. So now I'm gonna go ahead and apply my Catrice foundation over both sides. Like I said, this foundation does look pretty decent without primer. I just feel like the primer really rounds it out and makes it look more fresh. This is also the only foundation that I have right now that actually matches me. I'm neutral hazel. I don't know why all my other foundations right now are oxidizing so weird on my skin. But I mean, look at that shade match. Literally perfect. Okay, so going over the primed side now. Right off the bat, I can definitely see a brightness on this side that's not happening on this side. There's more dimension as well because the primer is highlighting the high points of my face. I feel like this just puts me a couple steps ahead in my makeup routine because it's not looking as dull as this side does. It doesn't look dull, but I mean, in comparison. My under eye is already brighter automatically, which means I don't need to put on as much concealer. And I feel like my cheeks are slightly highlighted as well. I do feel like on both sides though, my skin is looking smooth. This foundation does that really well by itself, but there is something about this side that just looks a little bit more awake and alive to me. Next, I have definitely been tweaking how I approach filling in my brows. I used to fill them in pretty evenly throughout the entire brow. What I mean by that is I am applying the same amount of pressure and the same amount of product all the way up until maybe this first little section of my brow. The thing is that I already have pretty thick brows in this front area. They don't really need extra product. And even as I sort of blend the product through, they just ended up looking really front heavy because I was making the dark part darker. And then I would have to go really heavy in this area of my arch where I really don't have any hair at all. So I'm just kind of drawing on skin. Makes it a little harder to get to look natural when now I have to compete with this really, really dark area and try to make it even. The other thing about doing my brows like this is that I felt like I was always wearing statement brows. So on days where I wanted a little bit more of a lighter look overall, I felt like my brows looked very out of place. By the way, this was the AOA Slim Brow Pencil. I really like this. So how I approach my brows now is that I'm focusing on these areas that are sparse. Like you can see my arch is just missing. That's how my natural brows grow. And I'm trying to get these areas to match the areas that are already naturally full. And I'm not adding a lot of product at all to this front section. So now I'll start at my arch. I kind of brush my brow hairs down to get them out of the way so I can create that fake upper edge. And this allows me to be so much lighter with product because I'm not trying to overcompensate based on an overfilled front brow. And then once I kind of connect my new arch to the front section so that it's an even shape, I'll start brushing the product through the tail, and then whatever's left in the spoolie from blending the tail, that's what I'm gonna brush into this front section. It's barely any product, but it's just enough to get that cohesion as well as add this sort of front border because I don't really have a lot of brow hairs in this front bottom section. Here are the finished brow looks side by side, and apart from this one just looking more natural, I also feel that it looks more lifted. I have lower set brows in general, and with this one being so dark, it looks heavier. It looks kind of droopier on my forehead. The next tweak that I've made to my makeup routine comes as a surprise even to me, because doing a dramatic black winged liner used to be a non-negotiable for me. I did it with nearly every makeup look I ever wore because I just liked how it made my eyes look. But now I am taking a bit of a softer approach so that I can get the same lifted eye appearance without the heavy black line. So on this side, I'll just go ahead and quickly do my signature winged eyeliner. We all know what that looks like. I actually feel like I'm a little out of practice because I haven't been doing it so regularly. So what am I doing instead of a black winged liner to give myself the same elongation and lift? I've switched to using a very precise liner brush and a deep brown matte eyeshadow. So this is the Sigma E06 brush. I believe it's about $15. You can get 10% off on their site with the code /beauty. Definitely not a cheap brush, but I've had Sigma brushes for over 10 years. They are great quality. If you take care of them, it will last. And the thing about this brush, you can see that it's kind of an angled liner brush, but it's a lot thinner and more detailed than a lot of other angled brushes, which kind of double as brow brushes. However, another brush that could work for this is the AOA E117 brush. I got this one in an AOA brush set. This one just has a lot longer and thinner of a brush tip. So with this brush, I'm just gonna tap into the dark brown. This is the Physicians Formula Breakfast Club palette, which you can still get on Amazon, by the way. And from here, I'm gonna create a very subtle, slightly smudgy wing. Now there are so many benefits to doing your wing liner like this. One, I feel like it's a lot more versatile, so you can wear it with more looks without it being the statement of the look. Powder is also a lot more forgiving, so if your wing is not sitting at the angle that you wanted it to, it's a lot easier to clean up. So I've just brought this color down and a little bit into that outer lash line, but I'm not bringing it all the way into my tear duct. And now I'm just gonna kind of tap at the point of the wing. This is not supposed to be like a snatched, sharp liner. I'm just tapping at it so it sort of blends into my skin, and that's what I've been doing. I love how this looks. It totally lifts my eye. It gives me that definition at the corner that I like. It does end up making my lashes look a little bit thicker as well. And don't get me wrong, there is definitely a place and time where I'm totally rocking a black liquid liner look, but this used to be my everyday non-negotiable eyeliner look. And now preference-wise, I just like the look of this better. Now this goes for all of the tweaks that I'm talking about in this video. I'm not saying if you do your makeup makeup like I'm doing it on this side, you need to change to how I'm doing it on this side now. I'm just trying to encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, try something new, especially as you notice different makeup techniques maybe not working well for you anymore or not looking the same as they used to. The next change that I made to my makeup routine over the past year is actually thanks to a TikTok filter. It was one of those filters that puts lines on your face and tells you where you should be applying makeup. And while the eyebrow version of that filter looked insane on me, the contour version showed me that I was contouring way lower than I really should have been. So taking the AOA Perfect Bronzer Powder in Cold Brew, I'll show you where I was contouring. I was basically going for this hollow in my cheek, like clear under my cheekbone, sort of in that groove of like how my jaw opens. So this is where I was placing the contour and angling it pretty low. And technically this is like where the dip in my face happens in terms of like my cheekbone definition. So when I used this filter, it showed me a guide that I should be putting my contour more like where my cheekbone starts to curve downward. And this is like the area that I used to put my blush in. I think you can see the difference pretty immediately. My old placement definitely squared off my face. It looked like my cheekbones sit lower and more like horizontal on my face, whereas this placement is really lifting my face, giving me higher cheekbones, giving me more of that heart shape. And because things are lifted and not dragged down, it definitely adds to a more youthful appearance. Now, just for reference, I've also had to adjust where I put my blush as well, because where I used to put my blush was where I'm putting my contour now. I used to bring it in pretty much at the apples and then move up towards my temple. I would do that because I felt like it helped elongate my face. Meanwhile, I was working against my efforts by putting my contour so low. So now where I'm putting my blush is just right at the tops, sort of at the border where that contour starts to fade. I'm not bringing it as far in because look at when I smile, my blush is like in my laugh line. Again, just kind of bringing my face downward. So I'm really keeping everything higher, and I'm stopping at about here with my blush. So when I smile, very clearly on my cheeks and not like in my mouth. And same goes for highlight. Before it was pretty low, like at the edge of my orbital bone, and I was bringing it in again really far center. And now I'm still using my orbital bone as like a guide, but I'm really focusing it up at these edges here. Not moving toward the center, but more moving upward. I also like to put a little bit on top of my brow. So now with the rest of my face makeup in place, you can really see the effect of my contour placement on the rest of my makeup and the end result after everything comes together. It's a huge difference, and it's not even that I used less product on this side. I used the same amount of product, but it looks so much heavier over here, simply because it's like lower and more centered. And finally, the lips. This is a change that's happened pretty gradually over the past couple years. I used to be a major gloss hater. I really hated the feeling of something wet on my lips, especially because so many drugstore glosses in the past have been sticky and thick, but we are definitely beyond that now. The first drugstore gloss that like got me back into wearing glosses was the Maybelline Lifter Gloss, and then I realized like, oh, they're comfortable lip glosses now. And of course, a liner lip gloss combo is definitely on trend, and the matte lip look is kind of on its way out. And to be honest, I'm not even mad about it, even though my collection is overwhelmingly matte liquid lipsticks. Comfort-wise, I've really just been preferring wearing liner and lip gloss or liner and tinted lip balm versus a full-on matte liquid lip. So I just lined my entire lips with the Kokie Cosmetics Warm Nude Lip Liner. On my old routine side, I'm gonna use the Milani Amore Satin Matte Lip Cream in Velvet. And again, I think there's something to be said about the longevity of a matte liquid lip, and there is a time and place where this is going to be what I reach for. But again, in terms of my personal routine and how it's evolved, a matte liquid lipstick used to be the only option I'd consider. And now 4 out of 5 times, I'm gonna reach for a gloss instead. So this is the ColourPop Luxe Gloss in Tied Up. I think also, again, as I start noticing more fine lines around my face. Glosses are a little more forgiving to all the little lines that I have in my lips. And here we are. This is the final before and after how I have tweaked my makeup routine. I feel like I'm achieving the same goals that I had in mind with my old techniques, but not only in a way that is more on trend for 2022, 2023, but that are also more flattering on my face now as a 29-year-old versus an 18-year-old. So once again, this video is not to tell anybody that they're doing their makeup wrong or their routine is outdated. It's mostly just to inspire you to try something new, step out of your comfort zone, because you may be super surprised with the results. I want to know, how has your personal makeup routine changed over the past year or two? Tell me in the comments below. Today's shout out goes to Donna. Thanks for being a member of the Slashed Squad. And join me over in this video next where I share beauty splurges that are actually worth it, both the hype and the money. I'll see you over there. Bye!